And we'll see if it actually turns out to be as much as they did last year or as little as they did last year or less. Wouldn't be surprised if it's less. All right, Jeff Kerr is in our waiting room. He jumps in with us here on Birds 365. I'm sure you just heard what Johnny and I were talking about. The Eagles last year cut back their offseason activities, cut back their training camp activities, and they went 14-3, and they were tied in the Super Bowl with 8 seconds to go. Yeah, they didn't win, but they were that close to winning it. You don't expect them to change. If they do change, it's going to be even less is more, right, Jeff Kerr?
Well, they are practicing the same amount as what McMullen said. It's just they're doing it a week later, and they don't use the mandatory minicamp. They're not the only team that doesn't use it, but I do know 20 NFL teams are starting today. But as McMullen pointed out, a lot of those teams either A, didn't make the playoffs, or B, were eliminated early in the playoffs. So, like the Eagles and the Bengals, I think, are two of the teams that don't start till next week. And I,
No.
frank, I frankly didn't take notice of the teams that did start today until then I was looking at the power. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that team wasn't good last year. That team wasn't good last year, or that team made the play. I think the Giants might be the only team that made the divisional round of the playoffs and are starting today, but I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, and I don't, no, let's be honest. I think the Eagles are proven, to be honest, that OTAs are not the be all end all. I mean, it's good to get people up to speed, but I don't know how shifting the calendar a week is going to affect things as long as you get your done. The bigger point to me is minicamp. The Eagles are one of two teams that don't have mini camps. They haven't had a mini camp in the Nick Sirianni era, but it's hard to argue about that yet because they haven't seemed to struggle with no mini camp. So, if they did struggle, I think we would be hyping this up to no end. But I find it hard to criticize them with not only the success, but also the relative health compared to other teams. Whether they found a magic bullet, I don't think they are. I don't think they have. I think they've just gotten a break or two. Um, and I don't know if that can continue. But if they do have a bad season with injuries, I'm not going to rewind back to say, oh, if they had minicamp, they probably wouldn't have got injured. I don't see the correlation. Am I wrong there?
I don't see it either. As a matter of fact, even if they had major injuries last year, I would have went back to, well, the depth of their team was incredible. And I think that's what I'm concerned about a little this year at certain positions, like linebacker, like safety. I think that's where we're having depth questions. But if they suffer a major injury at, say, defensive tackle, like they did with Jordan Davis last year, they have guys there. They have Jalen Carter. They have Fletcher Cox. And Ndamukong Suh's a phone call away, and from what I gathered, he loved his time in Philly last year. I don't think he's willing to go to training camp anytime
No,
soon.
he said he's done with camp. He's done with camp.
I think he set a precedent, by the way. I think a lot of
Yeah.
veterans are going to take his route.
I've been telling Jody this. The Eagles
Oh, yeah.
created a market, man, for guys who played and made a lot of money, like Ndamukong Suh, Linval Joseph. Why do they want to come in and go through this grind for the veteran minimum or a little bit over the veteran minimum? Just go ring shopping in November and say, all right, who needs a defensive tackle? I'm here. I kept myself in shape. I think it's smart. Chris Harris is talking about doing it.
Yeah, I think Odell Beckham played that market well. He got himself notable in November and December. Then the workouts kind of came out. Okay, he's not fully back yet, and I think he was smart and said, you know what, I'll back off. I'm not going to play for X amount of money for a team trying to make a Super Bowl. What I'll do is I'll sign a thrifty contract in the offseason. He got $15 million from the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
I think he was a huge winner.
Yeah.
How much do you think, since you went there, Jeff, do you think that played into Lamar's deciding to re-sign? I think very little, if anything, but I've read.
I know he wanted them.
That was a key, that they were boys and he wanted them to sign. And the Ravens, that's why the Ravens paid him as much as they did, that they thought he could be the final domino to Lamar re-signing. I think it was much more about Jalen Hurts getting his deal done and setting the parameters of what the money needed to be rather than OBJ becoming a Raven. How about you?
There were a couple factors with Lamar. Well, one, he always did want to go back to Baltimore. I think he wanted to test the market, but I agree with you, Jody. I think he wanted to test the market to see what he could potentially get in the market and go back to Baltimore and say, hey, look, this team values me like this. And then the Jalen Hurts deal got done. And I always said the Eagles would have been smart to sign Jalen before Lamar. They did that. So Lamar had a benchmark now. And I think Baltimore said, yeah, we can make this work. And I think he always wanted to go back. But I think it also helped Baltimore, got Todd Monken as an offensive coordinator. They drafted Zay Flowers. Now, again, this was after Lamar signed, but they helped him there. Nelson Aguilar is what he is. He's going to be, I think he'll be productive for them in that offense. But the Odell Beckham thing definitely helped because it at least showed Lamar that, hey, we're actually willing to get better at wide receiver. And this is by far the best wide receiver core Lamar Jackson has ever thrown to. Oh, and he's got Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely at tight end.
Yeah, but does he want to throw? Lamar is great throwing at tight ends. I mean, and Mark Andrews is a part of that, but the Ravens have had good tight ends for years and years and years. He's just comfortable doing it. I've seen no evidence that he wants to throw the football consistently, at least outside the numbers. Are people making too big of a deal out of that? The Ravens offense is going to be the Ravens offense. Running game's a big part of it because of Lamar. He's going to throw the ball to Andrews, especially in big spots. Any of that change with all these receivers everybody's so excited about?
Yeah, see, this is where I get tied up here because I want to see where them actually throw the ball to the outside. And I think it is going to change. I don't think we're going to see as much. I'm trying to word this as best I can. I think you're going to see the volume go to Mark Andrews, but I think Mark Andrews is also going to be susceptible to deeper passes now because you're going to have guys like Odell and guys like Aguilar and Bateman, Rashad Bateman. We can't forget him in all this, by the way. I think he's going to be a very good player in this league if he can stay healthy. But I think you are going to see more passes outside the hash. I think you're going to see a different dimension. But this is where I'm going to add the intrigue here. Are they going to run the ball with J.K. Dobbins as much or Gus Edwards as much? Is Lamar going to run as much? Like, if Lamar gets blitzed or if Lamar is in the pocket too long, is he going to stay in the pocket or is he going to take off? That's where I'm curious to see where this all lies because Greg Roman's offense definitely favored Lamar Jackson running the football. Will Todd Monken do the same thing?
And I got a lot of Raven calls on my national show before the season started. Oh, Rashad Bateman is going to step in and be our number one wide receiver. Yeah, how'd that work out for you? Not that great. He may have a better season.
He's a good player, but I don't think he's going to be a 1, but he could be a very good 2.
Right. That's exactly what he is. He's a 2. He's not a 1. All right. I want to ask you about something that Russell Baxter touched on with us in our first guest segment today. Asked Russell about the Eagles' offseason, strength, weaknesses, and like, and he went immediately to, you got to be able to stop the run. And we know the Chiefs ran it effectively against the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Isaiah Pacheco became a household name. But let's be honest, it was an issue all year long. Eagles were number 1 against the pass, defensively yards per game, middle of the pack, like 15-16 against the run last season. There have been changes on the defense. The coordinator's a big one, but a lot of players have been swapped out and or replaced. How big an issue is that going to be for the Eagles this year? Our team's going to be able to run the football against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, last year when they added Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh, I think during that time they were 11 for 12, if I remember doing in my Super Bowl preview. So it wasn't bad, but then that kind of got exposed in the Super Bowl with Isaiah Pacheco being able to run like he did. What did he average, John? Like 5 yards per carry in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, he had a good game. There's no question about it. But I would add to Jody's question, just part of the reason they were number 1 in pass defense is why they were number 16 or 17 in run defense. That they were trying to stop the pass at the expense. Is that a problem? In other words, because their philosophy is not going to change. So, maybe you can stay number 1 and get up to 12 or 13, but if you want to be the number one run defense, you're not going to be the number one pass defense. So what's, is there a better middle ground, or what's the best path forward?
Well, if you look at recency in the NFL, and again, I'll go to the Eagles and Tampa Bay on this. The Eagles had number one rush defense in 17 and won the Super Bowl, but they didn't have that great of a pass defense. And Tampa Bay's had the number one run defense for, I think, since 2019. They've been at least one or two the last couple of years. And
Vita Vea, baby.
Yeah, Vita Vea, exactly. And look, they've had tremendous success. Now, granted, they've also had Tom Brady a lot of that stretch, but even before that, they were winning games because of their run defense. So I actually kind of like what the Eagles do. I think it's more important to stop the pass than it is the run, because if you can just get better at tackling, I didn't think tackling was that great for them last year. And maybe this is where Nakobe Dean comes into the mix here, because from what I watched last year, I thought he was pretty good at finding the football and bringing his man down. Now, we have not seen that in a large sample size yet, but I think that's where you're really going to miss TJ Edwards too, John. I think that's where it's going to be. I'm a little concerned because I thought maybe they can be better against the run, but I don't think being 15th, 16th is that bad.
No, either do I. I don't think it's bad at all. They were just bad in a big spot. So I think it gets sort of overblown a little bit.
I think the Washington game got a lot of people a little worried about, but people seem to forget Washington ran the football 49 times. They didn't average that many yards per carry. It was only like 3.9. It was just the chunk runs, I think, was what hurt them. Like, it was first down, they would get like 6-7 yards, and then the Eagles would kind of slow them down. But you could tell what Washington was trying to do, just keep Jalen Hurts out of the offense all the field.
Yeah. That Washington game was a good example. Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm with you, John. To answer the question you asked to Jeff, I'd like to see better balance. If you give me my choice of a defense that's number one against the pass, but number 17 or 18 against the run, or I could have a team that's 4 or 5 against the pass and 4 or 5 against the run. Oh, I'll take that combination every single time. If you can look at a piece of paper and do an analytical look and go, well, we just got to run the ball against them. Well, if you come out with a decent running game and a good coaching staff and a good game plan, you could move the ball against the Philadelphia Eagles last year. I'm hoping that Sean Desai has a little bit better balance. I think they were overly protective of the pass last year and not putting enough resources toward the run. That's one of the things I'm hoping for during this offseason, that Sean Desai is going to be a little bit different. And he did hint at that. You were there, John. You got a chance to ask him a question. I thought he left the door open for it being slightly different, that there are going to be tweaks. Basic philosophy, yes, the same. And they're Sirianni based, and this is what the most important things are in my mind as the head coach for my defense to do. But I would not be surprised if they give a little bit more credence to stopping the run this year. And I'll be happy for it if that's the case.
Jeff brought up Tampa Bay, and I brought up Vita Vea. That's what the Eagles want. I mean, they want that dominant interior run stopper, and they want Jordan Davis to be that player. And if he becomes that player, I think everything takes care of itself. The question is he going to become that type of player? That I can't answer. But yeah, to Sean Desai, he was tremendous as a sort of forward-facing mouthpiece. I think already he's doing a better job than JG, but ultimately, look, saying what people want to hear is great, but if you play the same way and you play the same way with less success, here's my concern, Jeff, with Sean Desai. He's not getting 70 sacks. He's not.
No, he's not. I mean, 70 sacks is already hard to get. They could be a better defense and only have 45-50 next year.
Well, right. They could be. Better's an interesting question. They can be better in spots.
Yeah, situational defense.
Yeah, situational defense. Are they going to be a better defense? They were number 2 as overall number 1, as Jody mentioned in the past. I think it was 16 or 17 against the run. But ultimately, are they going to be better? Well, yeah, you could be number 1. You can be better. You can be further ahead of number 2 as the number 1 pass defense, but you can have 71 sacks, I guess. But is that realistic, is what I'm trying to say.
This is an interesting correlation, John. So their number 1 pass defense last year, that was the fewest yards per game they allowed for the Eagles since 2001. And that pass defense was one of the best I've seen, with Dawkins, Vincent, Taylor, Damon Moore in the secondary. And it was kind of like the Super Bowl in that NFC Championship game when they played the Rams. As much as Kurt Warner played well in that game, he didn't beat them on deep passes, or he kind of beat them like Mahomes did. But the real difference maker in that game was Marshall Faulk. They just couldn't stop the run as well as they could stop the pass. And they were a good run stopping team at the time. And that's why I'd love to ask a guy like Hollis Thomas this. But Marshall Faulk was a difference maker there, kind of like Pacheco kind of was with the Chiefs. The only difference was Faulk was the all-world running back. Hall of Fame.
Slightly better.
Yeah,
Slightly
2,000 scrimmage yards in 4 straight years. It's never going to be matched. And Pacheco was Pacheco. So I guess you can, where I'm going with this is, if you're just better situational, like stop the 1st and 10s from being 2nd and 4s. And again, like I agree with you, John. I think this is where they want Jordan Davis to be Vita Vea, and they kind of want Jalen Carter to be prime Fletcher Cox. That seems to be fair, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's my question to both of you is, expectations, are they unrealistic? I mean, we're coming off a Super Bowl season here, and you lost in the big spot. So that's kind of what I said. So there's more spotlight on it. So pretty damn good defense, and that wasn't good enough. So I kind of feel sorry for Sean Desai.
And it's a really good offense. It's a really good offense too. I feel bad for Brian Johnson because they take a little step back, but they're still explosive.
Yeah.
They're going to get on him, and it's really unfair. Like, so we had to do game by game schedule predictions for a lot of teams at CBS, and we have to correlate all of them. Well, I got stuck with the Eagles. I'm looking at the schedule, and I'm thinking early on, I'm thinking late on, and I said, I think I'm 3-2 in that like 5-game gauntlet they have. I think they can win 13, 14 games again. And I actually had them at 14-3, and I started laughing. I'm like, there's no way this is going to be right. But I did say they were going 12-5 last year, so I guess you can say I was close.
If they get an easy start and an easy finish, they got that very tough gauntlet in the middle. Yeah. I think the schedule lays out great for the Eagles.
I like.
If you knew the teams you were playing, and you knew you're going to have to play because you got enough good teams, playoff teams from last year, a group of teams together. Where would I want to put it? Yeah, like starting in week 10 and going to week 5. That would be the perfect place for me. Give me a great, easy start, a lot of transition, coaches, players, and the like. Let me get off to a good start. Let me work, have that tough spot pretty much in the middle, and then let me finish up easy when I need to get wins. Oh, the Giants who we own and the Cardinals. I don't know.
My biggest gripe with the schedule was when I saw they played the Chiefs. I'm like, please don't tell me the Chiefs are coming off a bye too. Yes, they are. So I'm like, oh,
yeah, but that's fair and balanced too. I like that.
Yeah. I do too. But it's like one of those. Like, why can't one of them get the bye, and why can't one of them be the? I started laughing because we all know Andy Reid's record.
Andy, baby. Andy,
what is he? 20-4 with the bye or something like that? It's insane.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that much begging from an Eagle perspective. All right, let me ask you this about this upcoming season. They got a new offensive corner. They got a new defensive corner. We were just hinting at the fact that they're not going to get as many sacks as they did last year, which means Sean Desai is going to feel the anger of the Eagle fans who all live for the blitz, the blitz, the blitz, the blitz, the blitz. And they're not going to blitz. Not as long as Sirianni's head coach. They're just not going to do that. But then again, on the offensive side, Brian Johnson, good guy, also handled his first foray with the media and the fans pretty well as well. very tight with Jalen Hurts, but they had a very prolific offense last year. Their offense might not be as good as it was last year. Who is going to be tougher to replace, Shane Steichen or Jonathan Gannon?
Oh, Shane Steichen. Just look at his development of Jalen Hurts. Look at his development of Justin Herbert. Anthony Richardson's in great hands. And Brian Johnson is no slouch here. I think he's a good coach too. But Shane Steichen is – I think he's going to be a really good head coach in this league. I just think he knows how to develop quarterbacks. I think he knows how to call a game very well. It's definitely Shane Steichen over Jonathan Gannon to me. I think Jonathan Gannon had a great year last year. I think Jonathan Gannon is definitely going to be a coordinator, a longtime coordinator in this league, and not that great of a head coach. But we'll see. I mean, I'm just going off optics here and the franchise he's with. But I think Shane Steichen's going to be that guy. He could be a head coach for a long time in this league. He plays his cards right. But by the way, Jody, you might have something going here with Sean the guy. Just so you know.
Sean the guy.
I mean, yeah.
I'm gonna disagree with you, and people are gonna jump down my throat because I like Jonathan Gannon. Blah blah blah. Has nothing to do with Jonathan Gannon or Shane Steichen. By the way, I love Shane Steichen. Probably closer to Shane Steichen than Jonathan Gannon. People don't know that, but there you go. For this one reason, Nick Sirianni's the guy on offense. So any offensive head coach, the defensive coordinator is a bigger deal than the offensive coordinator. Any of them. Take the names off. And vice versa. If it's a defensive coach, the offensive coordinator is more important than the defensive coordinator. This is Nick Sirianni's offense. He lets insert name run the defense. Now, he's got a couple sort of hurdles you have to reach, and he wants you to do certain things. But for the most part, you have significant autonomy. From that standalone reason, I think the defensive coordinator is more important than the offensive coordinator. Thoughts?
I can agree with that statement. And again, with the side, I don't know if he will be as good as Gannon. I will say this to you, John, and Jody, you know this too. I think Gannon gets a really bad rap in this city for being a really good coordinator. I mean, everybody's going to look at the Super Bowl and, him giving up 38 points, but you also gave up 38 points to Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. A lot of teams seem to do that. Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals didn't have that great of a defensive performance against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid here, and look who their defensive coordinator is. So, and they have one of the better ones in football. So, yeah, I think Gannon gets a bad rap, no doubt about it. I just think you can't replace what Steichen can develop in a quarterback and how he can take that quarterback good in year one, great in year two. That's what I think they're going to miss. I don't know if Brian Johnson could do that, but I trust it because he's been with Jalen Hurts and with that family for so long. It's, those two just see eye to eye. So that's where I would agree with you. And it would be harder to replace Gannon, but I still would go with Steichen.
Yeah, we'll see how much autonomy that Sean Desai has. As I think you pointed out here last week, John, at least Nick Sirianni had ties to these guys prior to. That there's two coordinators he knew, coached in the NFL with, had a very tight relationship with. Brian Johnson, he didn't know until he joined him on his staff, and I'm sure he was in on the hire, but it was surely a Howie Roseman suggestion. And, of course, Sean Desai coming in from outside the organization to begin with. It'd be interesting to see how the previous relationship with those guys actually factors into Nick Sirianni putting his stamp on their sides of the football. Maybe it's just optimistic at this point, but I think Sean Desai is going to do a little bit more changing with the defense than most people would heading into the season. All right, a question we haven't tackled in a couple of weeks here, but I want to get your take on it, Jeff. I don't think we asked you last time you were on. Zach Pascal, major loss for the Philadelphia Eagles. Maybe the coach's favorite player. Loves that blocking wide receiver or wide receiver 3. Call him whatever you want. Have the Eagles successfully replaced Zach Pascal this offseason?
They signed Omalani Zaccheaus. Of course they did.
Wait a minute. What was Zach? Talk about measurables. What were Zach Pascal's measurables?
A lot bigger than Omalani Zaccheaus.
Yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean,
Zach's a big dude.
Yeah. If you're going by, so I still remember seeing Zach Pascal for the first time last year, and he walked past me and just kind of nodded his head, and I'm like, "Wow, this guy's pretty big." I didn't realize how big Zach Pascal. I can see why he's made a career in the NFL here, but I think that's where we're going to see a more explosive offense because you're going to have a guy like Zaccheaus in the slot. I'm assuming he's going to play the slot, and what he was able to do in Atlanta last year with little to nothing at quarterback, and no disrespect to Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder here, but that offense was predicated on running the football down your throats with a really good run blocking offensive line, and he was kind of like, okay, you're the number 2 behind Drake London. Now he's going to be an offense with A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Quez Watkins. I think he could beat Watkins out for the 3. In fact, I'll say it. I think he does beat Watkins out for the 3 spot. So, thoughts, Sean?
Joseph Nada, baby.
Yeah.
Receiver. 6'3", 215.
Good.
I don't know if he can block, but I think he's an undrafted guy to keep an eye on. We'll see how things shake out. Last one for me, at Jeff Kerr, CBS. Follow Jeff there on Twitter. Read him, cbssports.com. Does a tremendous job. June 1st is coming.
It is.
Is Howie, he's already getting all the accolades, 2-time executive of the year. Has he got a plan post June 1st? Is there going to be a splash? We're going to get an all-ball linebacker. What is Howie going to do post June 1st, if anything?
I'm telling you, I know he has a good relationship with Eric DaCosta. I'll just say this. If Patrick Queen's available.
My guy, Kerr. That's what I like to hear.
If he's available, I wouldn't be surprised to at least see them call and try to work something if he's available. I still haven't gotten word out of there whether he is or not. I talked to a lot of people with the Ravens, but they don't give you anything. If silent as the grave is definitely the mantra in Baltimore.
All right, so let me put it to you because this is one that John and I disagree on. And he's got the strength of past performances because of the way Howie Roseman has done his business. If you want a guy of that level at linebacker, I think it's a 3rd-round draft pick. I don't think you're getting him for a 4th or a 5th or a 6th or a 7th. I think you need to get into the 3rd round to get him. Don't have to go to the 2nd, but I think just off what he's done so far in the league, the level of player he is, last year of a contract, I think he's at a cost of a 3rd-round pick. Agree or disagree? Would Howie Roseman go there if that's the price?
I think he avoids the 3rd and adds a player to it. And then gives up like a lower pick.
Derek Barnett? You know what?
Happy. That's one of my. Can I call the bold prediction? Derek Barnett will not be on this team by.
No, I don't think it's bold, but
no, because I've been saying it for months.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you need to be in the know with Derek Barnett to know he's probably not going to be around.
I don't think they're just going to release him, though. I think they're going to try to get something for him.
And the Ravens do need some pass rushing help, and I think they'd be willing to take a flyer on a proven veteran, I guess you can call him.
Somewhat proven veteran. Yeah, I mean, something's coming. I cannot believe the Eagles are going to open the season with Nakobe Dean and Nicholas Morrow. Nakobe Dean, yes.
I don't either.
Something's coming.
By the way, John, this is going to be the $1 million question. Will we be at the NovaCare complex, watching minicamp, writing our stories?
No, we're not going to be watching minicamp. I know that.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, will we be in the auditorium when Howie makes the call?
No. Well, Howie's not going to be anywhere near us.
No,
Howie's season is, let's see.
We will hear Howie to what? Maybe the 53 when they make the final 53?
Yeah. Every once in a while, if Howie's in a good mood, he'll drop in and talk to us. But usually off the record. As far as on the record, yeah, probably 53.
Yeah.
Unless there's a big trade. If there's a big trade, a splashy trade, and even a Patrick Queen trade,
I think
probably not. Probably not.
That.
All
Probably
right, so
53.
let me play
thing
Eric.
I like about Roseman and Laurie, they don't talk much, which I kind of like that about them.
Let me play Eric DaCosta for a second. You guys can play Howie Roseman. Give me a yay or nay. All right, you won't give me the third round pick? Fine, I'll take a fourth. But you got to give me Suopeta.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Well, can I drive him there?
Yeah. They don't care. No. Yeah.
I'd rather have Suopeta and offensive line depth than Derek Barnett.
Yeah.
They'll find another Suopeta.
Yeah.
I'll drive him there myself. I'll take him in my Honda CRV. I'll do the job for him.
Yeah, I think you're taking too much into that Jason Kelsey Tesla quote. The Tesla stock has sunk. Yeah.
I rode in more Teslas in the Super Bowl than I ever will in my life. I'll just say that.
I love Teslas. I love them. I told Jody I got a Tesla for an Uber once. I didn't know how to open the door. I'm like, what do I do here?
So
I've never been around a Tesla.
If you guys are not as big a fan of Suopeta as I am, all right, how about Driscoll instead if they ask for him?
Eagles don't want to give up Driscoll. That's different.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be willing to drive him the ball anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's the sixth man, Jack Driscoll. He's an
Right.
important part.
He's the upgraded version of Bailey Falter for the Eagles.
That's not good. Well, he better be better than that this year because Bailey has not gotten off to a good start.
Well, you know where I'm going with this 6-starter, that type of thing. But
yeah,
I think he's a lot better version.
Oh, and 7 for Bailey this year. That's not easy to do. 0-7 a quarter of the way into the season. He's on a pace to be 0-28 for the year since we're about a quarter.
Hey, I was on a Twitter crusade. I can't wait till the day Bailey Falter is out of the starting rotation. I got my wish.
Yes, you did. And we'll see who the Phillies.
And you got to mute the knuckleheads, Jeff. Just mute them.
I do mute them. You know what, John? One day at training camp, I'm going to show you all the people I muted on Twitter.
All right.
And a lot of them happen to be from a certain fan base.
I got a phone book of mutes at this point.
It's your black book of mute button.
Kerr, good stuff. Always a pleasure, brother. We'll be touching base again soon enough. Thanks for jumping in with us today.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Read him on cbssports.com. Jeff Kerr always has a insight and maybe a laugh with us whenever he comes on. All right, Mac and Mac coming back. We're running out of time. We got to put a bow on the show.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire